On today's episode of Things That Can Kill You. Food. We talked about water last week, or whenever it was, whenever I decided to post that. So let's talk about food today. Obvious things, right? Obvious things. Stick around, you might learn something. Or you might learn me something down in the comments. Whatever, man. So, here's the deal. Everybody's first inclination, unfortunately, when things get bad, is to grab their bug out bag and go. Or their inch bag. I'm never coming home. Whatever. How much food do you have in there? Those of you who have been at this channel a while are familiar with the fact that I carry generally about 20 pounds of food in my rucksack, which is right back there. In fact, the boy and I had for lunch the other day when we were clearing woods with the Shofarians, we had granola bars slathered in crunchy peanut butter for lunch because Dad messed up and we didn't pack a lunch. And it was good. He was like, wow, this is really good. It is really good. So I always have about 20 pounds of food with me at all times. I have approximately 10 days worth of bugging out to do. That affords me 2 pounds per day without foraging. That's an important number to understand. 2 pounds per day without foraging. Now your body can go 3 days without food comfortably, 3 weeks without food until you die, but you're not going to be operating at peak without food. The body can easily fast for 24 hours. In fact, Yom Kippur, the Day of Atonement, is coming up. It'll probably have already passed by the time you see this. And that's a 24-hour fast for those that observe it. So, you can fast, but I don't think you should fast for 3 days while carrying a 50-pound rucksack through the woods, if you can help it. So 2 pounds per day is about the sweet spot for food to have on your person. You have a 3-day bug out, throw 6 pounds of food in there. 5-day, 10 pounds. I have a 10-day, I have 20 pounds of food. Why is that? I don't have to try and hunt or scavenge or find wild edibles or fish or trap or whatever. It's on my back. I don't have to worry about it. I've already got it. So now if an opportunity presents itself to fish or hunt or trap or scavenge or eat wild edibles or whatever, I will take that opportunity within reason. But I have what I need with me. Also understand the difference between need to have, nice to have. Okay, moving on. 2 pounds per person per day. If it's cold, 2.5 to 3 pounds per person per day. What about at your house? How much food should you have? I think you should have a year's worth of food put up at a minimum. Why? Because food is security, dude and dudette. Our metrics are up to 10% female viewership around the world. Shalom, ladies. My wife was very excited about that as well, so check her out on Wednesdays. Now, a year's worth of food is a lot of food, but a year's worth of food is a lot of security. It cures a lot of problems. You break your leg and you're out of work for 4 months until your leg heals, man, you got a year's worth of food put up. You still got 8 months worth of food put up. One less thing, right? So it's not just the end of the world as we know it, security. It's also maybe you want to start a business, and in order for you to start a business, you're going to have to tighten your belt a little bit, and we spend $800 a month in groceries. What if we could cut that in half? That's $400 a month extra in liquidity that we now have that we can throw towards the business because we were prepared, right? So a year's worth of food. There's a lot of ways to go about that. I really like the LDS preparedness method of planning 7 dinner meals. For example, one of ours is spaghetti. So 2 pounds of spaghetti and a big jar of sauce, it's like $2.50, right? Well, you buy 52 iterations of that meal. So you have one meal per week is planned out and accounted for. Now you move on to the next one. Maybe it's chicken stir fry. Okay, in order to do that, you need a pound of rice, a can of baby corn, a can of canned chicken breast, and some soy sauce and some ginger and a couple other odds and ends. Okay, you buy 52 iterations of that. That meal's done. So forth and so on. And so you have 7 meals, right? That handles your dinner. So you buy 52 of whatever constitutes that meal. You do the same thing for breakfasts. Breakfasts, granola, whatever, right? And I do the same thing for bread, to have the bandwidth to bake 2 loaves of bread per day. And you build out your meals that way, and then it's not, we're going to have rice and beans every day for the next year. Blah. Food boredom's a real thing too. So without getting off on a tangent on that, have some spices. Have a lot of spices, right? And more than just salt and pepper, although salt is great for myriad reasons. Pastor Joe just did a video on Worth Your Salt over on Patreon. Not that this is Viking Preparedness 2.0, because it's not. We are just very aligned in certain areas as far as, philosophically speaking. We tend to think about things similarly. All right. So a year's worth of food for you, everybody in your house, and everybody that's coming to your house. And not to knock rice and beans, because they're cheap and effective. They get the job done. So if what you have is rice and beans, rejoice in that. That's awesome. You got rice and beans. That's one less thing to worry about. So, there's lots of videos on how to store food for food storage, SHTF, right? Salt, we talked about that. Sugar, baking goods, yeast. Yeast is a good one to have, because you might find some blackberry bushes and they're fun to eat, but they're even more fun to ferment and drink. Or whatever. Maybe you find a honeycomb or some persimmons or something to make booze out of, which you're going to need, at least 3 times a year for feasting anyway, let alone, Grandpa's cough syrup at the end of a long day of splitting firewood by hand to stay warm. Be nice to have. So, what other considerations are there for food? How about planting a garden? And that could be its own tangent, right? But yeah, having the ability to plant a garden, and in certain parts of the country, a spring garden and a fall garden, is a huge blessing. Our fall garden is in right now. It got planted right around Labor Day weekend, and it's doing great. It's doing great. So seed saving, all of that, generationally, by the time you're in the 4th generation or so, this many of seed saving, you've adapted your seeds to that soil and the amount of sunlight and rainfall that you get within a standard deviation. And so your plants really start to flourish. So have 2 years worth of garden seeds put up and ready to go, so that you are producing food, not just consuming food. Same thing with animal husbandry. If you can homestead, go homestead. Go do it. It's a lot of work, but go do it. Because now you're producing, chickens, meat and eggs, right? And manure for composting. For feeding your fields, which feed your chickens, which feed you, which feed the fields, which feed your chickens, which feed you, right? Closed loop systems. Just had an email about that today. By the way, I get a lot of emails, so if you have emailed me and I have not emailed you back, or commented and I haven't commented you back, it's not because I think you suck. I don't. I just am inundated. So I beg your forgiveness. But the ability to plant food, plant a garden, is a big one. And to be intensive about it, to produce enough food for you, your family, and whoever is coming to where you are. And if you're in the suburbs, believe me, you can do it. We produced 40% of all the calories that we ate by being, our time investment was probably 5 out of 10. We were 50% hardcore in our backyard on 1/3 of an acre. We could have been more hardcore as far as our time investment goes, but we had, not new to y'all who have been around here, but we had 11 raised beds, we had fruit trees, we had berry bushes, chickens, meat chickens, laying hens, meat rabbits, pecan trees, row crops, all in the backyard on 1/3 of an acre. And we made a lot of food. I mean, a significant amount of food. And it's really cool to make a meal where the only thing in the meal that you didn't produce yourself is salt and flour. That's awesome. So, things to think about. Hunting. What about hunting? Yeah. I would make sure that if hunting is a skill that you plan to rely on, that the first day that you go hunting is not the day after the world ends. Like all things, if you are going to bushcraft yourself a 1.5-story, 1,800 square foot log cabin or something similar with your Mora companion and your Fisker's axe out there in the woods after SHTF, day one after SHTF is probably not the best time for you to learn all your bushcrafting skills, right? Same thing with hunting. Get out there now. I mean, within the legal limits of a season, get out there now and go learn to hunt. And more importantly than that, the hunting is the easy part. And I've explained this to my kids. They don't quite get it because they haven't been hunting with me yet. The shooting the animal is the easy part. The respecting the animal after it's dead, cleaning it properly, making proper utilization of all of its parts and all of the resources that one animal represents, cooking the meat, packaging the meat, butchering, actually breaking down primal cuts into finished cuts, all of that, proper storage, God forbid you have a smokehouse and smoking the meats, doing all of that, that's the labor intensive stuff, that's the hard stuff. And depending on what you shoot and where you shoot it, just packing it out from where the thing fell over and died can be a lot of work. So, yeah. Also understand how to properly prepare wild game. And not just cook it so it doesn't taste like shoe leather. Cook it so that you kill parasites. Certain animals, you can't kill all the parasites. We won't go into a diatribe about swine, but there's certain things you have to be careful about. No matter how well you cook them, you're still going to be subjected to the possibility of parasites. Same thing with foraging, wild shellfish and things of that nature. So the point being, do your homework now. With all things in preparedness, what we are trying to do is mitigate hardship down the road. So don't pay the hardship forward by not doing your due diligence now. Start doing it now. So can food kill you? Yeah, it can kill you. It can kill you if you don't have it. It can kill you if you don't have enough of it. It can kill you if you have the wrong kind. Look at that dude. What was the name of that book? The guy in Alaska who lived in a small bus and was eating those wild tubers, potato-like tubers. And he eventually died of Swainsonine poisoning because he was eating these tubers. And he was trying to shoot a moose, but he never got a clear shot at the moose. And eventually when he did, he didn't have the strength to shoot the moose. And then, his whole strategy depended on shooting this moose and eating it to get some energy to not die. By the time a shot presented itself for the moose, he was so weak that he couldn't take the shot. Into the Wild, I believe is what it was called. Jon Krakauer. So, eat the right things. Prepare whatever it is that you're going to cook or procure properly so that you're not subjected to parasites and disease. Know what you're eating. Don't go eat, a poisonous mushroom and fall over and die. And, like all things, do all the things. Do the hard work now so you don't have to worry about it then. All right? I'm home, which means this video is over. Shalom.